I'm really grateful to be here with you guys, and today we're going to be talking about figuring out what the job is that you want and how to get it. How many of you here already know what job you would like to have or what career you would like to have? Raise your hand. Few of us, okay? At the second half of this, we'll really get into how to get that job. For those, and even you rediscovering, yourself, the things we're going to go over at the beginning will be really interesting to you. If you guys don't mind, just let me introduce myself. That's a pretty dark slide. That's an amazing microphone right there. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. Growing up, I played every sport you can imagine. I played baseball, football, soccer, volleyball, wrestling, volleyball. Did I say that one already? Because it was good because I played volleyball at BYU, right? So volleyball is important. By the time I got to my senior year, I was playing football and volleyball. Those were my two main focuses. And I set a goal that I was going to be a Division I athlete. Now, at the end of my senior year, I didn't have any scholarships for football. I thought that's where I was going to end up becoming a Division I athlete, but it didn't happen that way. So I went on my mission. I went on an LDS mission to Brazil. And I came back and I walked on to the local junior college team in California. And I became a starter on 5 of the starting rotations for wide receiver. The day before our first game, we're doing walkthroughs. And the quarterback throws an interception. I go to show some effort, and when I reach out to touch the guy who intercepted the ball, my finger got stuck in his belt, broke it, dislocated it, just snapped it in half. Just unfortunate. So that was kind of disheartening, but I had a scholarship to BYU, and so I transferred to BYU, and I walked onto the football team at BYU. I made it. I called my dad. Oh, it's so exciting, right? You made the team. Like, this is what you've always wanted. You want to be a Division I athlete. A couple days later, Coach Empey, who was over the wide receivers, called me into his office and said, sorry, I don't know what Coach Croton was thinking. We don't need you, man. So I got cut before I even saw the practice field. So I went over to the Smith Fieldhouse where they played volleyball. I played volleyball for a couple years. Tried out for that team. I didn't make that team either. But I went to the assistant of the assistant of the assistant coach, like the guy who doesn't make any money, right? The guy who appreciates hard workers. And I said, hey, if you ever need a 12th guy for your redshirt freshman, here's my number. A week later, he gave me a call. Back then, they still held the phone like this, not like that. And so I went and played, and then he called me back for another day. And then all the guys on the team were like, Josh, just come every day. So I started coming every day. And then they were like, are you changing in the bathroom? I was like, yeah. They're like, no, you need to come share a locker with one of us. So they started sharing their lockers with me. And then they started sharing their gear with me. And then they started telling all the girls on campus I was on the team. I didn't mind that at all, right? And I did this for 2 years. I came before everyone, and I left after everyone. And after 2 years of doing this, I finally made the roster. I was put in the game, the final match of the season, my senior year. And it's match point. The setter sets the ball up, and it's coming to me. Like, oh no. So I swing, and the crowd explodes. My teammates storm the court, hoist me up. I'd won our final match of our senior season. Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But how do you guys think, as I tell the story, how do you think I did that? How do you think I accomplished that?
You're extremely persistent.
Persistence, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Great. Go ahead.
You put in extra effort.
Put a lot of extra effort in. Okay? Now, all of these things are tied into one thing. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be this guy. Does that still look like me? I show this to my kids and they laugh. They're like, that's not you. You don't look like that. Yeah, I knew exactly what I wanted. James Allen, who wrote As a Man Thinketh, said this. Does somebody want to read this for us? Go ahead.
The world steps aside for the man who knows where he's going.
Yeah. I like to say the world steps aside for the person who knows what they want. There's power in knowing what you want. So that's why we're going to talk about that today. So how do you figure out what you want? It can be a grueling process. Well, Abraham Maslow, you guys have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He talks about first needing, your basic needs met, but eventually you become self-actualized, meaning you can go out and do things and construct and create. He said there's 3 main components to that, to getting what you want. You must enjoy it. You must do it well. And it must be important. Now, I coach people on this concept. I coach people how to get what they want. And I use a set of tools that are produced by Gallup. Gallup does polling, right? You've heard of Gallup during times, the election years and those things. But they do a lot of research with businesses and helping employees perform at higher levels. And so here's some questions that relate to those 3 considerations that Maslow talked about. I want you guys to take some time, and I want you to answer these. I'll give you 30 seconds. What kinds of activities are you naturally drawn to or that energize you? Take 30 seconds and answer that question. And it's okay to revisit this if you know what you want already, right? All right, let's go to the next question. Give you a second to wrap that up. What kind of activities do you seem to pick up quickly? So that's the learning process. You've never known before, and as you're learning, you pick it up quickly. Give you 30 seconds to answer that. Piece of paper on your phone, whatever. Okay, I'll go to the next one. What activities do you seem to automatically know the steps to? It's almost like you don't have to learn. The last question was learning quickly. This is like you don't even need to learn. You're just like, oh wow, I already know what to do. We call that flow, is what Gallup calls it. Okay. We'll move on. The next question. So an activity, when you do it, you just say like, how did I do that? This is like the Michael Jordan effect, I call it, right? You ever see Michael Jordan just like backpedaling, going like, I don't know how I did it. That's this. Glimpses of excellence. Eureka moments, right? All right. Then something that brings you great satisfaction. When you do it, you love it. So like you can't wait to do it again. When I do this, when I consult for people, I challenge them to write down at least 5 and maybe have a subset of 5. So pick your top 5 and then create a subset of 5 of things that match all these. You love, you learn quickly. You're good. This is teaching you the intersection of what you're best at and what you love. All right, got it? I love this GIF. I had to throw it in there. Okay, now the other tool that Gallup uses is called the Gallup StrengthsFinder, okay? And you can see these are different strengths, talents, and they're in kind of buckets. There's 1 in 34 million chance that somebody else has the same top 5 strengths as I do in the same order, okay? And these are buckets, so there's under this, if I click here, I can see all the sentences of other talents that lie under this theme. So it is a truly unique, one of the most, I consider the most dynamic personality assessment that I've used in my 12-year career. So I use this together. Now, once you get this, once you figure this out and you do these self-discoveries, you got to fall in love with it. You got to marry it. Fall in love with it and marry it. I mean, that's what you do when you fall in love with someone. You marry them, right? That's what you have to do with the job that you want. Right here, Dr. Orson Swett Martin, he created a magazine in the turn of the 20th century, that 19th to 20th century, called Success Magazine. And this is what he said. Would somebody mind reading that for us? Thank you.
The golden opportunity you are seeking is in yourself. It is not in your environment. It is not in luck or chance or the help of others. It is in yourself alone.
Absolutely. Trust yourself. The power's in you. You do your self-reflection. You use tools that help you understand yourself more. Because the power's in you. You can't change your circumstances. You can't change that. You can't change what other people do. What you can do is you can create your environment. That's what Napoleon said. My environment, I create it. You create your chance. You create your network of people who can help you. The power's in you. Okay? That's what this is all about. So now we know what we want. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. I married it, Josh. Okay. Now we got to figure out how to get the job we want, right? I'm going to teach you a method that is 400 times more likely to get the job you want. If I could teach you that method, would you be interested in knowing what a method is that could help you be 400 times more likely to get the job you want? Awesome. Let me tell you a story. I'll hold it off for a second. I said I served an LDS mission. I served an LDS mission in Porto Alegre, Brazil. Okay? And my first area was this little city called Alvorada. Oh, Porto Alegre is the capital city in the southernmost state of Brazil. It's beautiful. Look at the beautiful trees, the beautiful buildings. It's so beautiful. Okay, so this is a place where a lot of money runs through. Microsoft's there, Dell's there. There's so many big corporations there. Successful, well-networked, rich people. The story is that they created Alvorada to get all the riffraff out. And this is an actual picture of Alvorada. Okay? Dirt streets, a lot of people packed in, shantytown. Okay? That's where I was in my first area. And so that's the story behind it. Well, it's pretty much true. I went there, and within the first couple weeks, I got held up at gunpoint. And then one night, I'm walking home with my companion. I was literally there for 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks yet. And these guys came up beside us on bikes. It's a long, picture this street like in the middle of the night, long, dark, no lights. Comes up next to me, says, "Carteira," which means wallet. And I just went, obviously he didn't like that. So he pulls out in front of us, and he's got his gang behind him, right? So they're kind of off to our side. He pulls out in front of us, and he sets his bike down. My companion yells, "Run!" And he takes off running. I'm like, what's he doing? So I'm just watching him run, and then next thing I know, the guy who put down the bike takes off running after him, pulls out his gun. I'm like, oh, great. So I take off running after him. Now, my companion he was not athletic at all. So it was just like, caught up to him real quick. So I get up over the top of them both as they're kind of, scrumming, and I held up my fist, And the guy stands up and he sticks the gun right into my chest. And I look him in the eyes and I say, we don't have any money, in Portuguese, right? We don't have any money. Não temos dinheiro. And he ran. Like, you're stupid. You're the more experienced guy. You're supposed to have the cooler head, right? Well, we get out to the main street. We call the police. I mean, the police station was a block away. It took them like 20 minutes to get there. That's I love Brazil, but that's Brazil for you. So they get over. We tell them, hey, these guys on bikes, and they held us at gunpoint. And so they take off, and they said, we're going to go look for them. They came back like 5 minutes later. You still have 20 minutes? 5 minutes? I was like, you guys didn't really look, did you? Why do you guys think they didn't find him? They wanted to put forth little effort, first of all. And they didn't even try to find him in the right place. They just took a stroll around the block. Right? They're not looking in the right place. Now, how many times when we're looking for a job do we try to just put forth the minimal effort? It's easier just to go online to apply for some jobs, right? Employee referrals are 400 times more likely to get the job than a blind online candidate. That's a statistic from Career Crossroads. You can go on for free. You can download the reports. It's a very long report. It's like 75 to 100 pages, something like that. But it's on there. Why do you guys think that is? Why do you think it is that employee referrals are so much more likely to get the job?
Because it's less of a shot in the dark if someone you've already decided to hire says this could be a good person to hire.
Yeah, you're getting endorsed, right? That's huge. Other thoughts? So as a recruiter, some of my larger clients, they have a lot of bureaucracy, right? So they'll actually release the jobs to their employees and then to referrals of their employees before they ever put them out online. Others don't. Others just push them out online. But they get so many applicants, right? So you have your employee referral pool and you have your online applicant pool. Doesn't it look a lot like this and this? Two separate pools. You do not want to be considered riffraff, right? So let me teach you how to become an employee referral. Starts by going over your network. I challenge each of you to create a list of 50 to 100 people in your network. And you start immediate family, friends, and then you might think, some of you might have more experience and have worked before and have work associates. Others may not. You may have to go back to like your childhood teammates or that did dance with you or band or whatever and talk to their parents, It's going to be different for each person. Start creating a list and start with the closest relationships and work your way out. Create that list. Okay? First challenge. Then you need to research them. All right? Look them up on LinkedIn. Find out stuff about them. I mean, you guys are all Facebook stalking your dates. I mean, you can Facebook stalk the employer you're going to go work for. This is important. This is really important. So I'll give you an example. I researched a client of mine, and I found out that he was really into cars. So when I went to go meet with him, I brought it up. Hey, I saw you're really into cars. We got talking about what cars he was interested in, that his father was a mechanic. And then he said, my favorite car, my wife is actually borrowing right now. But I'm a little scared because she's been using it to go back and forth to the doctor because she was diagnosed with cancer. And the conversation got really rich, really quick. And we got into life and love and family. I didn't even have to ask him for anything. He just said, well, what are you here for? You probably want to know this. He started giving me all the information. I didn't have to ask for it. Information that he wouldn't give most people. and that if I shared with people, it could probably hurt his business. That's the power of researching people and finding those commonalities before you talk with them. Then eventually you got to talk with them, right? This is what telephones looked like back when I was talking about. No, okay, just kidding. All right, there's one way you could go, I need a job. I'm fresh out of college. Like, nobody's going to help me. Like, please help me. How do you think that's going to go over? Not good. But I see this all the time. I coach CEOs. Guys, I coach CEOs how to find a job. And first thing, I'll introduce them and connect them with someone. And the first thing I see is a email about that long. Please send my resume. Here's my resume. Send it out to everybody you know. I'm like, I call them up like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You have just now watered down your value. Don't do that. It's tempting, especially when money's pressing on you. Don't do it. What you should be doing is leading with value. I'll give you an example. I went to lunch recently with a friend of mine named Ryan, and he told me that he was selling software in the medical industry. I said, wow, that's cool. I actually have a really good friend of mine who is the director of HR at a prominent local facility here in the medical industry. He's like, wow, yeah, I'd love to meet him, right? Think about that. If someone comes and leads with a value like this for you, says, hey, I have a company I'd like to introduce you to. You want to go to lunch with me, or can we meet up, or can we do a phone call? What are you going to say? Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to lead with value. The mindset has to be, going into these conversations, what am I going to provide of value to them? If you go in thinking, what's in it for me, I guarantee 9 times out of 10, great statistic, I made that statistic up. But I'm telling you, it's not going to happen as often as you would like, as when you use the leading with value process. Now, there is a caveat. There is a caveat to leading with value. Right? It's the law of reciprocity, right? So you give, you're going to get. But the caveat is you cannot expect anything in return. Nothing. If you do, you're a fake. You're disingenuous. And they'll catch that. People are perceptive. It has to come from here. Well, it has to come from maybe a little lower down here. All right? Really important stuff. Huge caveat there. Make sure that's why I call my company Genuine Recruiting. This is what I preach. Okay? Now, I'd also find it really important to teach you how to get ahead more in the interview process. Because that's tricky, right? So here's some things that I think you would want to know. They would be very important for you to know before an interview. Okay? First, you need to find out the culture of the company. How do you think you could do that? Talk to people who already work there. Right? Anything else? Your employee referral, right? The guy who referred you. Even if he's not at that company, maybe he works, he used to work there, right? And he has friends there. You can find out real quick what the culture's like. Find out what the interviewer is like. Again, same thing, right? You can talk to them. Talk to the person who referred you. Talk to people within the company. Find out what they're like so you can do your research, so you can have those impactful conversations like I mentioned. How would you like this? How would you like to know exactly what they're going to look for in the person they're going to hire? Do you think you could call up your friend who referred you Were you going to say something?
Or what they don't like.
Or what they don't like. Exactly. Talk to your friends. I see this every day. Talk to your friend who referred you. Talk to people within the company. Talk to people in that specific department and ask them. This is awesome. Find out the interview questions before you even get there. I do this every day with all of my candidates. There's a reason why I have a very high placement ratio. They know the answers to the questions before the test. You can get that the same way. You think your buddy will share that with you? You think someone on the team could share that with you if you befriended them, even through a phone call, or found a way for somebody to introduce you to them? Absolutely. Here's the one I love. All right, so I coached this one to a friend of mine, and he found a job the next week. Got hired the next week. Find out the greatest problems facing the company or the greatest problems around that specific position, and not only find out what those are, but as well put together a solution. Can you imagine if you show up to an interview and you haven't even talked to the guy? You know his background. You know what problems they're facing. You say, I've researched you. I love what you're doing. You're doing amazing things. And I know why you're hiring for this position. And I've put together a game plan of what I would do when you hire me. What I will do when you hire me. That is powerful. That is powerful stuff right there. So here's a huge thing. I'm a huge Denver Broncos fan. They've played horribly the last few weeks, but I love Peyton Manning. I love this analogy. No matter what, throughout this process, some things you're going to use aren't going to work one time, and they'll work another. Or you'll call to talk to an employee. You'll talk to a salesman in the employee, because salesmen love to talk, so I suggest calling to the sales department because they'll talk your ear off about what's going on in the company. Or a receptionist. You got to remember, there's helpful people and there's non-helpful people. When you come across a non-helpful person, just move on. Don't let it discourage you. Don't let it affect your ego. Move on. You're looking for the helpful people. That's all you care about. You find the helpful people. Don't give up. I think of football. I think of football in the sense that we're not all Peyton Manning. You know, some of us are Kevin Hart's, right? A little too short to be playing in the NFL, right? And, you know, going back to this, what if what you want, what your dream is to be in the NFL, but you're short like Kevin Hart and you can't make it? What could you do? What else could you do? Any thoughts? You could be an announcer. Yeah, if you love sports, love football, be an announcer. If you love football and what you're best at is math, get into the statistical analyses. I have a girl I coached out in New Jersey in volleyball that has worked for ESPN for the last 5-6 years, right? I mean, I have a friend here in Salt Lake. He loves sports. He loves the athletes. He travels the country getting athletes to sign memorabilia. He brings it back here and he sells it for a lot of money. There's so many different ways to be involved in what you love and make money. So don't give up. If that's what you want, the power is in you. You can figure it out. You can create your circumstances. You can create your chance. And you can create the network of people that can help you get that. There's Kevin Hart again. Gotta laugh. This is some dude looking off into the sunrise, right? You can have everything you want. You are at this point. The future is ahead of you. I know because, as I've mentioned, I coach even executives on this stuff that I've talked about today. I've recruited for Dell EMC for 7 years now, and they tell me the number one reason why they select my candidates is because they're passionate about the company, and they know everything that they think they could ask a candidate about the company. And I give them the questions to the interview. Absolutely. And finally, I know that these things will work for you because early on in my career, I was unemployed, I was broke, and I was borrowing money. And I used these techniques to advance my career. And within 6 months, I was running a recruiting firm after being in that situation with only 1 year prior experience in recruiting. I know that you guys can do this. These things work. You guys, if you figure out what you want, use these techniques and you'll get it. Thank you. This is my information. I also have a website, joshblife.com. You can check out what products we have there. Questions? Do we have questions? Sue?
You talk about the ideal situation would be a referral, but what if they don't have a referral? So the person can still do the research, go online, they can still go the social media research and stuff. But how would they get to know who the interviewer was so that they could prepare for that part of the experience?
So I'll give you the example of how I started running a recruiting firm. I ran a recruiting firm for SEO.com, right, and their global or their nationwide group of marketing companies. I ran that for 2 years. I just pulled up the top 30 fastest growing companies in Utah, and I picked up the PR sheet that they posted online. Somebody in PR posted, found a number, called in, and just started asking questions. And I found out that the HR lady handled it all. Called up the HR lady, just became friends with her. And she was like, yeah, I hate recruiting and I have to do it. I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? Sorry about that. It's like, I'm really good at it. I love it, actually. You know, let me know. She called me back a week later. She's like, I just got to have a meeting. He wants to hire 10 CEOs to start new companies. I need help. So we started a recruiting firm together. Yeah, you can do it. You just got to have some tenacity. Just call in. Just call in, start talking to people. Call the receptionist, call the sales team. Again, they love to talk. You just can't be afraid to call people, talk to people. Don't worry about the non-helpful people. Other questions you might have?
I know something that, I'm sorry, do I interrupt?
You go ahead and then we'll.
What I hear from students is that they're concerned that they're bothering people.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that they're bothering people. You'll notice I'll call in. So I use this technique called stabbing in. I told you I look up PR numbers. Next month, I'm in Palm Beach doing at a global recruiting conference, training recruiters on how to do this. I'll find that main number from the PR number, and I'll just go one number up. So if it's 1941 is the last 4 digits of the number, I'll go 1942. Let's see what we get. And I'll get like someone in accounting. People in accounting are like, whew, am I glad to talk to somebody? I've been looking at numbers all day. So it just depends on who you get. It really does. And they'll love to talk with you. Now, if you're talking about constantly berating them, right, that sort of thing, or always think of yourself this way. This is how I teach my recruiters. You are a guest in their house. Treat it as such. Follow up, be polite. In fact, I just landed a client who said to me, I love the way you followed up. Like, you're just always following up, but you're never irritating. That's because I'm a CEO who gets lots and lots of phone calls. I know what I hate and what I like. I like when people say, hey, I'm just trying to keep in front of you. I know you're busy. Don't want to bug. Let me know when you're ready. Those concepts. Keep it in front of you. Let me know when you're ready. Okay? Those are concepts to keep in mind when you're following up on your opportunities. I have a friend who works for Stryker, and in fact, he's the son of the late, great Christensen, tight end for BYU, an announcer for BYU. He says when they interview, they on purpose don't call you back to see if you're going to follow up, because they want the people who are going to follow up. So those are interesting. Other thoughts, questions as I've talked?
Do you feel like follow-up is better through phone call than email?
Yeah, that's a whole, so I teach this whole other training about making sure that you understand the depth of contact you're making. So I work a lot with IT professionals. If you send them an email, sometimes they prefer that, but they get like 20 emails a week or 30 emails a week asking them if they want to switch jobs. When I call them up on the phone, they don't just see what I'm writing, they hear my voice. They hear my sincerity. They hear my character. And I'm the only one calling them that week. Makes a big difference. In person is best, right? You understand more, you see their body language, you're also hearing their voice and the sincerity and whatever's going on in their voice, and you're hearing the words, right? So that's the deepest level.
Kind of follow up with what you said, like some people they send their thank yous through email, and I'm like, well, it could get lost. I mean, my director, because we work in the CDC, he gets like 100 emails a day, and I said, name how many times you got a handwritten letter in the last year, and versus like how many emails have you got?
Yeah.
It's just like it just makes far more impression to be in person or talking on the phone or handwriting a letter.
Sometimes old school is the new school because nobody else is doing it. I love that. That's cool. Other questions? Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about the process of figuring out where our strengths lie the most and how to fall in love with it and find something that matches that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Tell me what you're thinking. Like what you're looking to know.
So I currently have a part-time job and I have many different avenues of interest and skills.
Yeah.
I don't know which one to pick to develop the most.
Okay. So here. Okay.
For me to fall in love with.
So here it is. Okay. So when you figure it out, you'll just start laughing. You're like, there's no way I can. No, I can never do that. That's insane. I was just coaching a young girl just out of college out on the East Coast, good friends with her father, and we had that conversation. I couldn't travel the world and be a photographer. Why not? Why not? There's ways to figure it out. And we started ideating about what kind of ways, and she was like, whoa, I could do that. Yeah, you could. So, but yeah, when you do you start laughing, right? And you realize, oh wow, that's the one. That's the one you should pick. But you got to get focused. If you're like you're saying, if you're not clear, it's not going to happen. Tom Rath, who's an executive at Gallup, says you can't be everything to everyone. You can only be the best you. Right? You have too many things going on, you're trying to do too many things. It's not, you need focus. Figure it out. Sit down, take the time, create your lists, really say, and get down to the granular basics. Like, do I love speaking more than anything? Do I love writing? Do I love strategically thinking? Do I love doing math? Do I, think about those things. Get really, really down to those basic, think of like getting down to like motor skills or something, right? Like get down to the basics of functions of life, what you do and what brings you joy. One of mine is views, right? I love views. I've always lived in a home with a beautiful view. Even when I lived in a little old apartment, I made sure it was on the top floor, right? Know what you want and you can get it somehow. I didn't have to have the mansion at first, right? Other questions? Awesome. Thanks, guys.